Hello, so let's continue with part 2 of the help screen. So we now added one button successfully. We learned how to initialize an MP3 file into an audio player object and how to call the play function to play the actual sound. And we learned about the URL, and we learned that we mapped the buttons to the actual files using the name of the file as the text on the button. So this way, every time a button is clicked, every time a button is clicked, we know which file we need to load, and we use the argument in the action function to pass the button that was clicked, and from there we retrieve the actual text on the button. This is very important because now that we have this, all what we need to do in adding the remaining buttons to correspond with the remaining notes is to add the button, put the text the same as the file name, and connect it to this function. So let's go ahead and add, for instance, the A sharp. So we go to main storyboard, we add another button. But because we have some configuration that we did here, can maybe delete that and just Command C to copy this button, Command V to paste this button, and then change the text to the A sharp and hit enter. So now we have the A sharp as the text of the button. So the remaining piece is to connect that function. So because we made the copy of the button, the connection to the function is made automatically. So when I hover over the function in the assistant editor, both buttons are highlighted. So if I try that, and if I play the sound of the A sharp, so that's that, and go here, still building. So go to help, have two buttons. So I don't know if you can hear it. Hopefully, I should have tested that. But it should play a sound now. And so it's very straightforward. So I just need to copy those and add the rest of them. And I am not really knowledgeable much about music. I did not study music. We start with the storyboard. So you can put them in any order you want. You can put them in a music order or in alphabetical order, whatever you like. So I copied both of them. So that adds this, and I'll say A sharp, maybe I'll say B and C. Then I'll copy all four and add them, and add another group. So this will be the C sharp, the D sharp, G, and G sharp. So I'm adding them in English alphabetical order, not music alphabetical order. So that's this one. To make sure, another way to make sure that they are connected to the function is by displaying the view controller list or the menu of connections, and you can see that the playNote function, which is the received action by the controller, is connected. When I hover over the function, all the buttons are highlighted, which tells you that all the buttons are connected to the same function. This is the same action when you hover over the circle in the function, and you can hover over each one individually, and you can see that it is showing to make sure that all of them are connected. But from here you can see clearly that all of them are connected. So let's try them. So I'm not gonna add on the menu on this video testing each and every single one of them, but you need to test each and every single one of them, compare it to the actual sound on the MP3 files, and make sure that everything is correct. But you see now the advantage of linking the text on the button with the file name, that all I needed to do to add the rest of them is to connect it to the function. And none of the code in the function changes by changing the text on the button, because we call it that the text in the button became variable, became dynamic, because I pass it through the argument function, this argument function here. I pass the text through the argument function, so the code, the actual code, is independent of the actual button. This code works for any button that has text on it that is equal to a file name. So let's try. So I'm testing all of them, and all of them are giving me a sound. So now we achieved the scope. The user is now able to read tutorial and practice the sound by clicking on each sound to hear and to know what it is. Then they can go back and they are ready to play a game, which will be beginning of the next iteration. So you can see we added a lot of files and modified a lot more, and we haven't yet committed. And in fact, I don't think that I created a remote repository in the project setup. I didn't log in, and I don't like to log in on the videos. So I said I'll do it later, but I don't think I really did it. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have a repository. So I logged into the GitHub account, and I'll add a new repository, and I will call it 77 music learning. And if you have, so that's that, I'll make it private. Do not initialize the repository, and then I'll say create repository. This is the URL that we're going to need. If you go to setting and go to collaborators, that's where you can add collaborators. If you want to add me so I can help, you can type my name and say add as collaborators. So back to the code, and I'll copy this, Command C, then go back to Xcode. I don't need the GitHub anymore. Go to source code, and you don't see it here, but in the working copy, in the master, you go and say configure the project. And if you go to remote, add a remote, and then give it a name. So I'm going to leave the name origin, or you can call it master or main or anything like that, and the address, and then done. And I believe that I am logged in, so hopefully it's not going to ask me to log in. So we'll say here that completed iteration 4 by adding and configuring the help screen. The user can now learn about the game and practice the different sounds. Commit and push. Hopefully it can push. Oops, it asked me for the username and password. So I'll do that after the video. It did commit locally, but it didn't push. I will push after the video and add, so we can do that later on. I wanted to mention something before I let you go with this part, is that the same techniques here can work with any type of sound. So if you want to recognize, for instance, a movie star voice, you can have like quotes from different movies and ask the user what movie it is. You can. There are so many variations. I remember one team worked on this and created a game for fifth graders, actually kindergarten, to recognize animal sound. So the all what the app doesn't really is not coupled with the actual sound. So you can replace the music guitar notes with animal sounds, celebrities, movie quotes, anything in that regard. So that's it for the help screen and iteration number 4. So we're done with iteration 4. We tested, everything is good. So we're going to be moving on to iteration 5 and the game screen.